Hey everybody, my name is Brittany Histing and I'm here from Surfing Waves of Light today to talk to you guys about a movie I just watched last night called Living with Ghosts. Living with Ghosts is a film about a new kind of grievance therapy for people that have chronically bereaved or chronic grieving going on called Induced After Death Communication. And I wanted to share with you all that without receiving this therapy formally, because obviously I just watched the movie last night, in my own way, I feel like I have been practicing this kind of mindset shift using other tools such as the Course in Miracles, the teachings and channelings of Tina Louise Spalding, and countless other spiritual teachers that I have read books about and learned from. So one of the main teachings of the Course is about our perception. And it's basically up to each and every one of us to determine how we're going to look upon our lives, how we're going to look at like the traumas and these hard events that have happened to us, loss of a loved one or something that happened in a battlefield, emotional traumas. And so I was really immersing myself in all this information before my dad died, while my dad was dying, and after. And I just decided that I was going to make a commitment to myself that I really did believe in a higher power, and that if something was happening in my life, then it was meant to happen. And I made the decision to trust that idea and live my life accordingly. So what I found, similar to this film, which I hope you watch because it's amazing, is that once I committed to that mindset and began to see the world as perfect, I noticed I was able to connect with my dad in a much more joyous and meaningful way. And so I'm not saying that I've done the therapy they're doing. I'm just saying I think that through my own ways, I have found the same result, but just using a different mechanism, a different path, because there are many paths, and that's one of the things you also learn when you go on a healing journey. So basically, because I was able to connect with my dad in a much more joyous and meaningful way, when I thought about him, instead of thinking about him and getting sad and feeling that pain and that heaviness, all those thoughts like he should be here or he doesn't get to be with me today. Instead, now I was embracing the thought system that this was the perfect plan, and that even though I don't understand it now at this time, I know that it's the perfect plan. So, and just trusting that he wasn't meant to be here at this time. And honestly, I really do feel that, because all the stuff that happened with COVID, my dad, he might have been freaking out. And in some ways, I'm not saying I ever want anyone to die, but I could just see the perfection and the timing in a lot of ways. And that brings me joy too. So even though I didn't know it at the time, that I would, like when my dad passed, I didn't know that I would be able to contact and communicate with him. I was able to remember him fondly and make jokes without getting sad all the time. Although, of course, no matter what, sadness will come because you have to adjust to hit the physical of a person not being with you anymore. But it definitely doesn't interfere with my everyday life and functioning. It's not like something comes up about my dad and then I really can't do anything else. So, so after my dad passed, I had already been trying to do automatic writing, and I wasn't trying to get in contact with him or anything. I just was trying to channel my higher self, get more in tune with who I was. And a lot of times when I was doing this automatic writing, as you'll see they talk about in the film, I was waiting for this I would put my pen to the paper and I was waiting for this external force to move my hand. And that was, and physically put notes on the page, but that was not how it happened for me. What I realized, and it took me a long time to realize this, that automatic writing for me was less of an external force and more of a quiet, sometimes wordless internal voice. It was more like pictures from a dream, or as some describe, zoning out. Suddenly and sometimes without warning, I would flash into an idea or thought, sometimes good and sometimes bad. I thought automatic writing and receiving information was something that was new and that I needed to practice. But what I ultimately realized was that I had always been using this tool of consciously connecting or automatic writing. I'd always been in touch with my guides and teachers. I just wasn't doing it in a very conscious way. It was very passive. And I noticed this mostly when I would apply for scholarships or trips or something, and I had to write some sort of paper or letter, and I had to sit down, I had to really get focused on it, and I would just sometimes bring through these like beautiful, I've written multiple beautiful letters that have gotten me scholarships, trips. It's crazy, like, in my own mind, but I really believe that now I know I was automatic writing and that I was guided on how to craft those letters and things. So anyway, so in this movie, what they teach these people is sort of how to think of their loved ones from a joyous place. And also they talk about automatic writing and how people can actually communicate with their loved ones. And they actually feature a story of someone who was in contact with their loved one and was writing, messages from him on a regular basis. So channeling my dad has brought me a great sense of love and connection that doesn't make me feel like I'm an orphan or a dadless girl. In fact, my dad loves to inspire other people to help me or teach me things that he wants me to know. I started to notice that Ernie, that's my dad, would always be hanging in the front seat of the car when I went for long drives, and he also liked to play songs on my very large Spotify playlist that only he and I knew. So if I hit the, shuffle button, when I could feel him around, the first song that would come on would always be these songs of me and him, songs that were ours, songs that we listened to together when he was in physicality. So I found that it's become a game to interact with my dad now. It's different than when he was in physicality, of course, but this way is really forcing me to learn and grow and expand my consciousness. I trust so deeply that we planned this whole lifetime before we came in, and we set it up so perfectly to help me and everyone my dad knew become their highest and best selves. My dad touched the lives of many, many people, and we estimate that almost 1,000 people actually came to his funeral and viewing. I know from my conversations with my dad that he, as he was in real life, is a teacher on the other side. He is a teacher of practicality, and for him, this whole death experience was to help facilitate his teachings from the other side and help people learn how to connect with beings from the other side. The veil is thinning and the energies are increasing, and as our consciousness expands, we're going to be stepping further into our oneness. And as that happens, we're going to realize that we're never separate from anything else. But it's a matter of learning how to tap into those higher levels of consciousness and access, whatever we want. So even synchronistically today, before watching the movie, my mom came down to our house last night in Holgate. We've been living here for a month, and Greg and I walked to the beach pretty much every day, and me and my mom went for a walk to the beach. It was a nice sunny morning, and on our way back, there's this house right on the corner, and there's a little outhouse right there, and my mom looks over and she goes, "Do you see that?" And I said, "No, what?" And it was a little outhouse that says Ernie's Outhouse. I kid you not, Greg and I have never seen it before. It was really amazing. It was very synchronistic, got chills. My dad was a plumber also, for those of you who don't know. So you just can't make this stuff up. It brings me so much joy to be interacting in life this way. And I just really couldn't make this stuff up if I tried. Ernie also speaks to me using contractor or other plumbing trucks. I had been anxious this past week over a large business decision I needed to make. And on the day that I was making the decision, there were literally 5 plumbing trucks parked outside of our house. And I hadn't seen one basically since we moved here. And the first time that I ever automatically wrote my dad was at my beach house last winter. Greg and I had been living there, and in the winter you don't really see anyone because a lot of your neighbors move home. And Greg and I, we walked outside. It was a really nice day, and there was a plumbing truck in our neighbor's driveway next door, and we were like, like we hadn't seen anyone in probably 2 or 3 months. So we're like, this is surprising. And I just looked over and something clicked for me, And I went inside and I sat down, and with the truck still in view, I just really felt my dad present. And it wasn't in sadness, it was in joy, it was in excitement, it was in connection. And so I sat down on the kitchen table and I just started writing. And I brought through this really beautiful message. And he told me that he wanted us to tell our story about our journey, and also about a lot of the stories around his death, because there was just an unlimited amount of abundance of beautiful stories that happened before, during, and after my dad passed. So more on that eventually. So anyway, I really encourage you to watch this movie, especially if you didn't exactly understand everything I was talking about today. That movie will help bring a lot of this into context. It's called Living with Ghosts, and I encourage anyone who is grieving to consider seeking out ways to remember their loved ones without attaching it all to the pain and separation. Our past loved ones wish to connect with us too. They do not want us to be in pain, and they will come through less often if it brings us great grief and sadness to the living individual being. Being open to connecting with the energies and feelings of someone you loved and lost will not only help you heal your grief, but also open you up to a whole new way of living. It makes life more fun, honestly. I've definitely been living a happier, more aligned life since opening myself up to all this stuff. And I just want to send my thanks and promotion to Living with Ghosts, and all the emotions and stories that it evoked in me today. I'll end this video by saying, finally, P.S. I checked my phone after writing all of this down, and I realized that as I was writing this, these emotions down, my mom sent me a picture, and it's the picture will be in the thumbnail of me and my dad, right as I was writing this. So I tell people that, again, I can't make this stuff up. He literally, if I'm thinking about him, he will always show himself to me, and it's just amazing. So I love you all. Thank you for listening to this video, and I hope it helps inspire you on new way of looking at life and potentially healing. Love and light to you all. Bye.